In a dusty, sun-baked town at the edge of the western frontier, lived a young girl named Eliza. Her father, a stern and prideful rancher named Silas, had long been obsessed with appearances, social standing, and the idea of marrying his children advantageously. Eliza, unlike her siblings, had a face that her father considered plain, and despite her gentle heart and quick mind, Silas's obsession with beauty blinded him to her other virtues. She was a soft-spoken girl, often shy and hesitant to voice her opinions, yet she had a fierce empathy and an innate understanding of nature and people around her. From the day Eliza reached marriageable age, her father's disappointment grew palpable. In the frontier society they lived in, looks and social connections mattered above all else, and Silas feared his plain daughter would bring shame upon him. His shallow concern led him to make an unimaginable decision. He decided that rather than raising her among townsfolk who might laugh at her, he would gift her to a man who was an outsider, a lone Apache named Dakota. Silas's reasoning was twisted and cruel. He believed that a man from outside their social circle, an Apache whom the town considered wild and untamed, would take her away quietly, and no one would dare complain. Eliza's heart sank when her father spoke the words aloud. She had never met Dakota, only heard stories whispered in town. He was a tall, reserved, and mysterious figure, known for his bravery, wisdom, and affinity with the wilderness. Unlike Silas, the townspeople regarded him with cautious respect, aware of his skills and his knowledge of survival in the harsh landscape. Fear and shame consumed Eliza as she imagined being handed over to someone she didn't know, to a life completely unfamiliar and uncertain. Her mother, who had passed away when she was young, would never have condoned such cruelty, and Eliza felt the weight of abandonment acutely. On the day of the handover, the town square was quiet, as if even the wind understood the tension. Silas, cold and unyielding, led Eliza to the edge of the town where Dakota waited. He was composed, dressed in a blend of traditional Apache attire and rugged frontier clothing, his long hair tied back, eyes sharp yet contemplative. There was an air of solemnity about him, a calm presence that contrasted with the frantic beating of Eliza's heart. At first, Dakota said little, only observing Eliza with an intensity that made her instinctively shrink. Yet in that silence, there was no judgment, no cruelty, only a quiet strength. Slowly, Eliza began to sense that he would not harm her, that his world operated on different values, ones that measured courage, kindness, and honesty above superficial beauty. As they walked toward his territory, a vast expanse of forest and river beyond the hills, Eliza's mind raced with doubt and fear. She imagined a life of isolation, of being dismissed as unworthy. Yet, step by step, she also began to notice Dakota's subtle gestures of respect. He offered her water, explained the animals they passed with patience, and ensured she walked on safe paths. Though she did not yet understand him, she sensed that this man, unlike her father, valued life differently. During their journey, Dakota shared stories of his ancestors and the Apache traditions, describing how a person's spirit and actions mattered far more than outward appearance. He spoke of courage, empathy, and the importance of protecting those weaker than oneself. Eliza listened with a mix of awe and disbelief. She had never heard such words from a man who could so easily command respect through fear if he wished. In Dakota's world, respect was earned through deeds, not beauty or social connections. By the time night fell and they camped near a river, Eliza felt a faint spark of curiosity. Fear had not vanished, but it was mingled with a strange admiration and a subtle sense of hope. She realized that, for the first time in her life, she was seen not as ugly or insignificant, but as a human being with worth. Dakota did not force conversation or attention. He allowed her to observe the world around them and encouraged her to speak her thoughts if she wished. As she lay beneath the stars, listening to the quiet murmur of the river, Eliza thought of her father's cruelty, but also of this unexpected chance at a different life. She did not yet know that Dakota's respect and eventual love would transform her understanding of herself, nor that the journey that began with rejection would lead to deep connection and devotion. Yet the first seeds of that transformation were planted that evening. The realization that perhaps beauty was more than skin deep, and that some of the most powerful bonds grew in the fertile soil of respect, trust, and kindness. This opening outline sets the stage for the story. The protagonist is introduced, the central conflict with her father is established, and the Apache Dakota is presented as a figure of strength and virtue who will shape her journey in ways she could not yet imagine. It's a story of cruelty and compassion intersecting, of an initial act of rejection giving birth to unexpected opportunity, and of the slow recognition that human worth cannot be measured by appearance alone. After the initial shock of being handed over by her father, Eliza's life with Dakota began in a state of uncertainty. The wilderness was unforgiving, rivers swollen with spring runoff, forests dense with predators, and nights that seemed impossibly dark and cold. At first, she felt overwhelmed. Every sound in the night was a threat, every shadow a potential danger. Yet, Dakota's calm presence became her anchor. He did not coddle her, nor did he force her to conform instantly. Instead, he introduced her to his way of life gradually, with patience and respect. Dakota began teaching Eliza basic survival skills. He showed her how to read the signs of the forest, the subtle tracks of deer, the warning calls of birds, and the scents carried by the wind. At first, Eliza struggled to grasp the techniques, fumbling with fire-making and misjudging the tracks of small animals. But Dakota never chastised her harshly. He repeated his instructions with quiet guidance, praising small successes and correcting mistakes with gentle firmness. Slowly, Eliza realized that failure here did not carry shame, but was simply part of learning. This was a revolutionary idea for her. For the first time, she experienced patience and encouragement rather than ridicule. Beyond practical skills, Dakota taught her about courage, not the brash, boastful kind she had seen in some men of her town, but the quiet courage that comes from understanding one's own limitations and pushing forward despite fear. He shared stories of his ancestors, of warriors who protected their families, not for glory, but because it was right. He spoke of women in his tribe who were equally brave, who hunted, healed, and guided the young. For Eliza, these stories were eye-opening. They challenged every belief her father had instilled in her about her worth and her role in life. As weeks turned into months, Eliza began to change. She learned to track game, light fires in the rain, and identify edible plants. Her body grew stronger, her mind sharper. More importantly, her confidence blossomed. She found joy in small victories, catching her first fish, correctly identifying the tracks of a fox, or successfully helping Dakota navigate a tricky passage through the forest. Each accomplishment was a step away from the girl who had been dismissed as ugly and insignificant. She was discovering that value came from skill, courage and integrity, not from appearances. The relationship between Dakota and Eliza deepened in subtle ways. Trust was not instantaneous. It was earned through shared experience, respect, and understanding. Dakota observed Eliza quietly, noting her fears and strengths, never pushing her beyond what she could handle, yet always encouraging growth. He began involving her in decision-making, asking her opinion on the route to take or how to approach certain dangers. These small acts of inclusion made Eliza feel seen and respected for her mind, as well as her spirit. Slowly, the walls of fear and shame she had carried her entire life began to crumble. One day, during a long trek along a winding river, disaster struck. A sudden flash flood swept through the valley, and Eliza found herself struggling against the current. Panic rose in her chest, but Dakota's calm voice guided her, his hands steadying her as they worked together to reach safety. That moment became a turning point for Eliza. She realized that trust was not simply about believing someone wouldn't harm her. It was about relying on another person in moments of vulnerability and finding courage within herself simultaneously. She felt a rush of exhilaration and gratitude, emotions she had rarely allowed herself to experience before. Living in the wilderness also taught Eliza lessons about compassion and empathy. She saw Dakota's interactions with animals and the natural world, how he respected life even when survival demanded difficult choices. She learned the value of listening before acting, observing before judging, and patience before making decisions. These lessons seeped into her character, shaping her into a thoughtful and resilient young woman. Dakota's love for the land, his people, and life itself became a mirror for Eliza to discover her own capacity for care and commitment. Despite her growing confidence and skills, Eliza still struggled with lingering insecurities. She remembered her father's words and the harsh rejection she had endured. She feared that even in this new world, she might not be accepted for who she truly was. Yet, Dakota never made her feel less than worthy. His actions consistently demonstrated respect, admiration, and quiet protection. Over time, these actions began to outweigh the scars left by her father's cruelty. By the end of this phase of her journey, Eliza had transformed significantly. She was no longer the timid, self-conscious girl who had been handed off by her father. She had discovered resilience, courage, and self-respect. More importantly, she had begun to feel a deep connection with Dakota, not romantic yet, but profound in trust, understanding, and mutual respect. He had become her teacher, protector, and first true friend. She had learned that love and respect were not based on superficial measures of beauty, but on the content of one's character, one's actions, and one's willingness to face life's challenges with integrity. This outline lays the foundation for the emotional core of the story, Eliza's growth from fear and insecurity to strength and trust, and the development of a bond with Dakota built on respect and shared experience. It sets the stage for the next phase of the story, where admiration evolves into deeper affection and the seeds of love begin to bloom. By the time several seasons had passed since Eliza was first handed over by her father, the wilderness had transformed her in ways she had never imagined. She was no longer the timid, uncertain girl who had feared her father's rejection. She had become a capable, strong, and perceptive young woman. But beyond her newfound skills, something more profound had been growing. An emotional bond with Dakota that neither of them could deny. At first, it was subtle. Eliza noticed the way Dakota's eyes lingered when she completed a task with skill, the quiet approval in his nod, or the rare smiles that reached his lips when she succeeded. Dakota, on the other hand, found himself drawn to her empathy, her courage, and the way she observed the world with a sense of curiosity and reverence. He had always been a man of few words, yet in Eliza he discovered a companion whose thoughts and feelings complemented his own. Their connection was built not on passion or desire at first, but on deep understanding, shared experiences, and unspoken trust, a bond forged in the crucible of survival and mutual respect. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of crimson and gold, they sat together by the river. The gentle flow of water and the chorus of cicadas created a serene atmosphere. Dakota shared a story from his childhood, of a time when he had to navigate alone through treacherous lands. Eliza listened intently, her hand brushing against his as they both reached for the same stone to skip across the water. The touch was fleeting, yet it carried a warmth neither had anticipated. In that moment, Eliza realized that her feelings for Dakota had grown beyond admiration and gratitude. She felt a profound affection and yearning, a desire to be near him, to share her life with him in ways she had never imagined possible. Dakota, though slower to express emotions, began to sense his own heart shifting. He had always known he respected and valued Eliza, but now he found himself thinking of her constantly, concerned for her safety and moved by her smallest gestures of kindness. He admired the way she laughed at the playful antics of the foxes near their camp, how she cared for injured birds, and the gentle way she spoke to children they occasionally encountered in neighboring settlements. Each act of compassion deepened his admiration, and he recognized that love was growing within him, a steady flame kindled by the combination of her courage, intelligence, and unassuming beauty. Their love blossomed naturally, intertwined with the rhythms of the wilderness. Shared tasks became moments of intimacy, gathering firewood, fishing, or preparing meals. Dakota began teaching Eliza about Apache traditions related to love and partnership, explaining that a true bond was measured not by fleeting attraction, but by loyalty, understanding, and shared responsibility. Eliza listened, learning that love was both an action and a feeling, nurtured by patience, respect, and trust. One night, a fierce storm struck the wilderness. Torrential rain, howling wind, and lightning forced them to seek shelter in a cave. Huddled together for warmth, Eliza trembled, not just from cold, but from the fear of the storm's fury. Dakota held her close, his steady heartbeat and protective presence offering comfort. In the flickering firelight, as the storm raged outside, Eliza looked into his eyes and saw the same emotions reflected within him: concern, care, and something deeper that words could not convey. In that moment, they shared their first unspoken acknowledgement of love. A gentle brush of hands, a quiet gaze, a closeness that spoke louder than speech. The awakening of love was not without its challenges. Eliza sometimes questioned whether her feelings were born of gratitude or genuine affection, while Dakota wondered if he could reconcile the cultural differences and the past that had brought them together. Yet, through open conversation, shared experiences, and unwavering support, These doubts were gradually dispelled. They learned to communicate through gestures, actions, and small tokens of care. Dakota taught Eliza the Apache tradition of gifting small symbolic items to express affection: a feather, a carved stone, or a handmade bracelet. These simple acts became powerful affirmations of their love, each gift a tangible reminder of their bond. Over time, Eliza began to see herself through Dakota's eyes. She realized that what her father had considered ugly was irrelevant in the face of someone who valued her entire being: her courage, her intellect, her kindness, and her spirit. She began to feel a self-worth she had never known, no longer defined by societal standards or superficial judgments. Dakota's love, patient and unwavering, showed her that beauty was more than appearance. It was courage, compassion, and the willingness to face life's challenges with integrity. By the end of this stage of the story, Eliza and Dakota's love had become a powerful, unshakable force. It was not rushed or overwhelming, but steady and enduring, nurtured through shared trials, mutual respect, and deep emotional connection. They had discovered a love that transcended appearances, societal expectations, and fear. A love born of understanding, trust, and genuine admiration for each other's character. This outline is crucial as it transitions the story from survival and personal growth to romance and emotional depth. The awakening of love creates the foundation for the challenges and choices that will define their relationship in the next stages, including external threats, cultural barriers, and the ultimate test of commitment. It also reinforces the story's central theme: true love values the heart and soul above physical appearance, and profound connections are often forged in the crucible of adversity. As Eliza and Dakota's love blossomed, the outside world did not remain passive. The frontier was a place of danger, prejudice, and unpredictability. Their union, unconventional by the standards of the nearby town, and Silas's narrow-minded expectations, drew whispers, suspicion, and even outright hostility. The first trials came in the form of societal disapproval. Townsfolk, who had once dismissed Eliza as plain or insignificant, now regarded her with a mix of curiosity and disdain. Unable to comprehend why she would live willingly with an Apache man. Some saw it as betrayal of her social class, while others merely feared breaking the rigid norms of frontier society. Eliza struggled with the sting of gossip and judgment, though Dakota's unwavering presence provided solace. He reminded her that their lives were not defined by others' opinions, but by their own choices, courage, and integrity. Each challenge reinforced the lesson she had been learning since leaving her father's home. Self-worth was built from one's actions and character, not appearances or social approval. The whispered criticisms and sneers became distant echoes, unable to shake the foundation of trust and love they had forged together. Nature itself also presented formidable trials. Harsh winters brought deep snow, freezing temperatures, and scarce food. Spring floods threatened their crops and shelter, while predators lurked nearby, testing their survival skills. These dangers were not just physical. They required constant communication, mutual reliance, and patience. Dakota and Eliza learned to work in complete synchrony, anticipating each other's moves, protecting each other instinctively, and relying on shared knowledge to survive. Their bond deepened with every shared trial, every narrow escape, and every victory over the unforgiving land. Personal fears also surfaced. Eliza, still haunted by the cruelty of her father, occasionally wrestled with insecurity. She feared that love could be fleeting, that Dakota might see her flaws and abandon her. Dakota, though confident and strong, wrestled with the tension between his own cultural traditions and the demands of living on the frontier among people who mistrusted his people. These doubts, left unaddressed, could have driven a wedge between them, but both chose honesty and open communication as their guiding principle. One pivotal trial occurred when Silas, her father, arrived unexpectedly, demanding Eliza's return. He was enraged, ashamed that his gift had not been enough to remove her from his eyes and the town's scrutiny. Silas threatened Dakota, attempting to assert power over both Eliza and the Apache man. The confrontation was intense. Silas's arrogance and narrow-mindedness clashed with Dakota's calm strength and moral authority. Eliza, for the first time, spoke with clarity and courage, asserting her independence and declaring her love and choice to remain with Dakota. It was a defining moment, symbolizing her complete transformation from a timid, powerless girl to a woman of conviction, bravery, and self-determination. Beyond external pressures, Eliza and Dakota faced emotional trials that tested the depth of their commitment. Moments of doubt, miscommunication, and fear of loss forced them to confront the reality that love requires not just admiration, but sacrifice, patience, and resilience. For instance, when Dakota went on a dangerous journey to protect their land and hunting grounds, Eliza faced days of anxiety and solitude, testing her patience and trust. She learned to channel her fear into preparation, skill building, and support, further proving her strength and dedication. These challenges, rather than breaking their bond, reinforced it, proving that love is fortified in adversity. Another test came from the natural world itself. During a spring storm, a wildfire swept through part of their territory. Dakota and Eliza had to act decisively, using their skills and intuition to save their shelter, livestock, and each other. The ordeal demanded absolute trust, quick thinking, and courage. Their successful navigation of the crisis became a metaphor for their relationship. Together, they could face any trial, relying on each other's strengths to overcome adversity. By the end of this phase, Eliza and Dakota's love had matured into a deep, unwavering commitment. They had faced societal rejection, natural dangers, and personal insecurities, yet emerged stronger, united, and resolute. The trials they endured were not mere obstacles. They were the crucible that tempered their love, forging a bond that could withstand both external pressures and internal doubts. This outline emphasizes the theme that true love is proven in adversity, not merely in moments of comfort or attraction. Eliza and Dakota's commitment is now unshakable because it has been tested by society, nature, and personal fears. The narrative sets the stage for the final outline, where their love culminates in fulfillment, recognition, and triumph over all that once sought to divide them. After enduring the harsh judgment of society, the perils of the wilderness, and the lingering scars of her father's cruelty, Eliza finally stood as a woman transformed. Her life with Dakota had shaped her into someone capable, resilient, and deeply wise. The trials they faced together had not weakened their bond. They had strengthened it beyond the fragile constructs of beauty, wealth, or social approval. Now, their love was ready to be recognized, both in their hearts and by the world around them. The first triumph came from personal fulfillment. Eliza looked at herself not as the ugly girl her father had condemned, but as a person of worth, strength, and virtue. Dakota's unwavering admiration and devotion had shown her that true love is not conditional on appearance or societal expectation. This internal triumph, the reclamation of self-respect and dignity, was the foundation of all that followed. She had learned to love herself, and in that self-love, she found the freedom to fully embrace the love offered to her. Their next victory was social acceptance, gradual but profound. Word of their courage, resilience, and the bond they shared began to reach neighboring communities. Stories of the young woman who had adapted to the wilderness, mastered survival skills, and earned the respect of a fierce Apache warrior spread quietly but widely. People began to see Eliza not as the rejected daughter of a petty man, but as a symbol of courage, intelligence, and inner beauty. Even Silas, her father, could no longer deny her worth. Witnessing her strength, independence, and the unwavering respect and love Dakota held for her, he experienced a reluctant, humbling recognition of his past wrongs. While he could not undo his cruelty, he began to accept her life choices, paving the way for peace between them. Nature itself seemed to bless their union. Seasons passed, and the land, once harsh and unforgiving, became a canvas of prosperity and stability. Dakota and Eliza worked together to cultivate their homestead, blending his knowledge of the land and traditional skills with her resilience and ingenuity. They became caretakers of the surrounding territory, protecting wildlife, teaching survival skills to neighboring children, and helping travelers in need. Their love became a living example of harmony, respect, and mutual support, not just between themselves, but between humanity and the world around them. The culmination of their emotional journey was the deep, unshakable bond that had evolved into lifelong partnership. Their love, tempered by adversity and strengthened by shared experiences, was now profound and unquestionable. In quiet moments by the river, under starlit skies, or while tending their homestead, they found joy in simple companionship, laughter, and the silent understanding that their hearts belonged irrevocably to one another. No longer were they defined by past judgments, societal prejudice, or personal doubts. They were defined by their devotion, their resilience, and the life they had built together. A symbolic moment of triumph occurred when they held a small gathering in their community. Neighbors, previously skeptical or dismissive, witnessed the depth of their partnership. Dakota and Eliza, side by side, exuded respect, love, and unity that could not be ignored. Even Silas attended, silent but present, recognizing that his daughter had become more than he had ever imagined. This public acknowledgement of their bond was not a concession to society, but a celebration of the truth. Love that is genuine, tested, and resilient deserves recognition. The story also emphasizes the power of legacy. Eliza and Dakota's love inspired those around them to reconsider prejudices, value character over appearance, and recognize the strength of commitment. They became mentors, teaching younger generations the lessons learned through their journey: courage, empathy, resilience, and the principle that love grows strongest where trust, respect, and shared values are nurtured. Their union was no longer just a personal triumph. It was a beacon of hope, a model for what is possible when love is guided by heart, not superficiality. By the end, Eliza and Dakota's lives were a harmonious blend of adventure, stability, and love. They had overcome rejection, prejudice, danger, and self-doubt. Their relationship, once tested by wilderness, society, and fear, had emerged as a testament to enduring devotion. They were partners in every sense, equals who had chosen each other freely and fully. The narrative closes with a sense of lasting fulfillment. They had created a life together that celebrated individuality, courage, and love, unbound by superficial constraints. Ultimately, this final outline underscores the central themes of the story: the triumph of love over superficiality, the power of resilience in the face of adversity, and the capacity for human growth when supported by trust, respect, and understanding. Eliza's journey from rejection to empowerment, and Dakota's unwavering commitment, culminates in a life of mutual admiration, emotional depth, and everlasting love. Their story leaves the reader with a profound message. True beauty is found in character and courage, and the love that endures is forged in the crucible of shared trials and unwavering support.